being able to get in and out same day, I think is a huge plus.
Warm glass of milk and fuzzy blanket.
Hi, I'm Ren Leggi, Client Portfolio Manager with ARK. On this season of The Switch, we're going to address the mechanics of ETFs. As always, we'll be joined by ETF Trends to facilitate the discussion and make sure that we don't leave anything unanswered. So let's continue the discussion with ETF Liquidity.
Hey, Ren, allow Dave and I to nerd out a little bit. Dave, what do investors need to think about regarding buying and selling ETFs and, most important, liquidity?
Well, the most important thing is to remember that an ETF is traded on an exchange just like a share of Microsoft. And that means you need to know a little bit about basic trading. The number one piece of advice I give people is always use a limit order. Now, most ETFs trade spot on fair value all day long, but they can drift a little bit. And you don't want to be that one guy who put the trade in at exactly the wrong time and got a bad price. So look and see where an ETF is trading, put a limit order right around where it's trading, and generally you're going to be fine.
Yeah, and listen, a lot of people say, well, I really don't know how to do this. Listen, if you're trading online on a brokerage platform, it's got everything you need. You can see the bid and the ask spread. You can put a limit order right in between there, or you can actually call the trading desk, and the fact that you might be an advisor. We're way past putting up a red flag and saying, I don't understand that, because there's a lot of good information out there. I think you probably get this all the time, Ren, because if people are looking to buy your ETFs, especially in bulk, you can actually help advisors do that to make sure that they get fair pricing, right?
Yes, absolutely. So you can work with the larger firms, work with authorized participants or market makers to get that price at NAV through the unit creation function that we talked about the other episode. So it's a much more efficient way to be able to buy those ETFs, especially in bulk.
Ren, one of the interesting things about ETFs is they kind of have two different kinds of liquidity. You've got the liquidity you see on screen, right? That's like how many shares of ARKK can you buy at what price? And that's how you think about stocks. But then there's the liquidity of the underlying securities. And there's been a lot of focus on ARK because some of the securities you own aren't as widely traded as Microsoft is. How do you think about that internal liquidity versus that external liquidity?
Yes. So we look at the liquidity of the underlying holdings, but it is kind of point in time. Anything can happen in the markets, right? Where we see a spike in volatility and it actually changes the dynamic. So if you're looking at the more traditional metric, right? How many days will it take me to exit that position based on the average trading volume over the last, say, 90 days? That may not be a good metric when the market is panicking about a second surge of coronavirus, right? And that elevates the volatility in the market. Some of these names may be able to trade, or we may be able to exit much easier in the broad market if we have to. But really, we are kind of a longer term investor. So we only trade and provide liquidity in many cases, right? We're only trading when we have to. We're not necessarily trading for the sake of trading, right? We're not forced to rebalance our portfolio every week, every month. We're actively managed traders, and so we can take advantage of that benefit.
And Ren, in order not to get too nerdy here, but the authorized participants that you work with, their job is to keep those spreads as tight as possible, because that's part of your reputation, right? If they're not doing their job, the investors may not think as fondly of you. So can you talk about that and the importance of the AP, of keeping spreads tight?
Exactly, Tom. I mean, that's part of their job, right? And they get paid to kind of arbitrage those opportunities away to get that price as close to the NAV. Now, our ETFs do trade across different markets, right? We have a global kind of focus. We have, a wide range of market cap spectrum. Those arbitrage opportunities get kind of traded away by these authorized participants. So we would expect, if you're utilizing those limit orders, that you can get very close to that NAV without being, disproportionately punished.
Yeah, and I think a lot of folks don't realize there are a lot of APs out there and they're competing. And so if those prices move a little bit away from fair value, they're all ready to pounce to try to book that arbitrage. Often it's just a penny or two. And the good news is, as an individual investor, you can kind of forget about it and it all just works.
It is. And ultimately, kind of what we were talking about before, if the system works and the plumbing works, Ren, then you can concentrate 100% on portfolio management, right?
Exactly. And then, the other kind of benefit is worth mentioning is that investors can always get out, right? Even if there's a crisis, right? You can get out, but it will cost you something, right? You may have to trade at a discount to NAV, but you will be able to get out of a single ETF. And that, I think, is a benefit versus, if you look at a mutual fund or other structure, you may have to wait till the end of the day to get out. You may get it at NAV, but, with an ETF, there's always liquidity.
Yeah, and you always know what price you're getting, which I think is critical, right? In a mutual fund, sometimes you can put an order in at noon and you kind of have no idea what price you're going to get at 4 o'clock. Never happens in an ETF. You put that order in, you wait for your confirm, you know the truth.
And that certainly gives investors some comfort. Being able to get in and out same day, I think is a huge plus.
Warm glass of milk and fuzzy blanket.
Thanks, Dave and Tom. It's been great. I will see you on the next episode of The Switch.
Thanks, Ren.